Hi, good afternoon to everyone and welcome to this emotional health seminar. Today we have Stanley, and he is a consultant, entrepreneur, social entrepreneur as well, and a mindfulness teacher. He's an international advisor and a teacher for the Oxford Mindfulness Foundation, and also a founder of Sage Capital. He's also founder of Mindful Circle, which is a social enterprise dedicated to bring high quality mindfulness to the community and workplace in an accessible and inclusive way. And so this is why we have invited him. He's going to give us some really helpful tips on how to bring mindfulness into our very busy lives. And his title is Mindfulness for Busy People with Busy Lives, Mindfulness in Real Life, or IRL. Over to you, Sandy.
Thank you, Celeste. Really appreciate that generous introduction. Appreciate that. And hello, everyone online. Lovely to see you guys. So yeah, we'll get started. The idea of mindfulness and how I think we all have some preconception of what is mindfulness, what is not mindfulness, when is it helpful, when it's not helpful. So my hope today is to share a little bit more about mindfulness in a very practical way. So I'll get started. Can I move this forward? Sorry. Let's give this a second. Press that.
I think it's because. That works.
Lovely, thank you. So, yes, so there's a few credentials there, but I think that's probably not the most important thing for today. I guess maybe I can just say that mindfulness has been really helpful for me, and I'm hoping to share that with you guys today. And with Mindful Circle, the idea that mindfulness can be something beyond just for one person, can be something that can support the community as well. So probably the better introduction for me is this little guy here. I'm probably the least likely mindfulness teacher you're going to meet. I'm direction blind. This is why Celeste came and fetched me from home to bring me here so that we'll be here safely for today. I work like an octopus. I run many businesses with various levels of success, if I am honest. And yeah, I was even one time realized I was wearing a watch on both hands for half the day before I noticed. So maybe not your idea of a mindfulness teacher, but that's why I really appreciated Celeste's invitation. You guys are, involved in academia, in research, so you know the evidence base. You know about, many of the interventions. But her request of me is to say, how do you, practice mindfulness, and how has it been helpful? So that's what I'm hoping to share today. So mindfulness sounds nice. So this is in the flyer, right? How do you practice mindfulness when the inbox is overflowing, deadlines are pressing, and life refuses to slow down? Right. So is this busyness? So how can we actually practice mindfulness? So that's the challenge of today. And I hope by the end of our time together, there's a few ideas that you can take back with you that might be helpful. So maybe I can just ask, just to open up. And again, no need to share if you don't have anything to share, but love to hear any ideas. What is mindfulness? And does it really, is this really an issue? So when you guys think of mindfulness, what do you think of? Anybody? Slowing down. Yeah, so that's an important thing. And I will talk about that a little bit more, right? So there's this thing about like mindfulness feels like it is something that is like very zen, peaceful. Yeah, sorry, I'm leaving my box. I have to come back in here. Yeah. And I'd like to challenge that in a little while. Okay, thank you for that. I really appreciate that. And the idea about whether mindfulness might be something other than slowing down, something about maybe showing up rather than slowing down. I'll talk about that in a second. Okay. And I'll just walk you through a personal journey. So Celeste's request was like, really, really make it personal. We want to know, does it really work for you? And explain your secrets. So I'll try my best. So the first part of my journey was in banking, various houses in various cities around the world. And this was not exactly my screen. This is from the internet, but I had 4 screens. two phones, and the phones with those clickers so you can sort of buy on one side and sell on the other side. So you have two hands. And really, that's where the octopus problem started, right? So this idea of moving as fast as you can, especially in the dealing room of a bank. I see some nods here, people who can recognize that. Yeah. And so that was the beginning of my journey, and it was fine in the sense that I understand you need to work hard to learn, to get better, to show your worth. And so that was the beginning of the journey. And really, there was some natural things, right? As you are trying to do many things at the same time, these things are always there, right? There is a constant demand for your attention. Make a decision, notice that this has happened. There are also interruptions. And there's this sense that you must always be on, otherwise you might miss something. So sometimes you can't even go to the toilet, just in case something moves. So there's this sense of like always paying attention all the time, always on. So you get this sense of digital stuff. And outside of a bank, even in normal life, all of you, I'm pretty sure there's this sense of like, I have to do three things at the same time. Yeah, see some nods. Yeah, so that is a normal demand of a normal world, real life. And we want to talk about that, right? And similarly, so what happens when we operate in that way? Well, it takes a toll on us, right? So what happens is slowly, the nervous system starts thinking that, we have in survival mode, it's threat mode. We have to do something. And then the thinking narrows. When something is very important to us, we concentrate on that. But what that also means is that we're beginning to have tunnel vision, or blind spots when we have tunnel vision. So everything narrows, and that replaces perspective. The energy is also being burnt up. It depletes energy, and that can actually wear us down. And over time, being always on, that can really add to the well-being being depleted. So I put it another way, when something is important to us, we pay attention to it. The mind narrows. Actually, we also, all attention goes to the mind. Let's say if I feel hungry, I might not even notice. Right? I haven't slept for a while, I also don't notice. So the senses also narrow. And actually, if I need to solve this problem, probably my heart is probably not in the story. I don't need to be kind or patient or nice because I need to solve that problem. So the heart also closes. Everything contracts. And unfortunately, one thing affects the other. If I'm in a bad mood for A, let's say I had a difficult day at work, I go back and meet my daughter and bring some of that mood with me. And then I have a conversation where I'm a little bit more harsh, a little bit more narrow-minded. That affects her. That affects me again. And then this circle continues. So this mood has a knockover or spillover effect, knock-on effect, and a momentum that keeps going. This is kind of how I was in. Don't know about you guys, but that was where I often in. And so I got to the point where I said, okay, this is not pleasant, and this is not the person I want to be all the time. And so there's this sense of you can either do well or you can be well. At that time, I didn't realize it was so clear in my mind, but it just like felt I need to do something. And so there's this sense that, either I, keep pushing, and then I can stay in the game, right? I can keep going up the ladder, or I take care of myself. And then, I can find balance, I can find priorities, I can find purpose, etc. It really felt like either or. And that was the belief that there's a trade-off. If I want one, I have to give up the other. If I want the other, I have to give up one. And I operated on that basis. And actually, therefore, I started looking for other things that I enjoyed doing. And I really enjoyed working to develop other people to their full potential. So actually what happened was, next step of the journey, I left banking and I started learning about things like coaching, consulting. So it's not about me as the performer anymore. It's about helping others perform. And it was really pleasant. It's like, it's such a different feeling in this situation. I studied, I did a master's, I learned about coaching, started consulting, etc. as well. So I started my own firm, Sage, at that time. And it was very enjoyable at one level. But changing the environment doesn't change everything. And actually, it felt like I was still analyzing, problem solving, must be right, must finish by tomorrow. Wherever you are, it doesn't mean that only happens in banking or in whatever career you're in. That's kind of part of the way we are. So I was bringing this fix my stress. go, do everything as quickly as I can, as the bestest way, if I can. And so I was actually operating in the same way. And even though I had built new skills, new knowledge, changed my environment, the mindset was the same. So actually, I was still struggling in a way, in the sense that, yes, there is some sort of wonderful moments, but there's still some moments of difficulty, both in terms of performance as well as in terms of well-being. So there was still something missing. And so I was exposed to mindfulness in some corporate retreat or sort of a leadership retreat. And yeah, this is the classic definition. Many of you have heard it before. I won't go very deeply into it. It's just to say that there's something to do with paying attention, something to do with doing it on purpose in the present moment and non-judgmentally. Honestly, when I hear this, these are my thoughts. Does mindfulness mean I have to slow down and do less? That was one person asked the question earlier. But feels like you're doing less. Feels like you're just going to sit in the corner and zen out or something. Or is it about being really nice and everything is okay? I accept everything passively. It's all okay. Let go, let be. Or is it that I just have to give in and have really low standards? So if there's a long queue, I go and stand in the back all the time. And that was things that kind of doesn't work for me, right? So those were the challenges. And even I will go even further. I would say that, in fact, I can tell you who mindfulness is for. It's not for me. It's for that lady over there, right? People with more time, people who are naturally calm, people with very few responsibilities. Probably they're quite rich already, half retired. Super zen. Not me, right? That's how I felt about mindfulness. Or maybe one day I'll do it. Holiday, maybe it's more likely, more possible. More free time. Or on retreat. Retreats are great times because, you're away from everything, away from family. And then you can actually really just take time to be mindful, or when life is less busy. So I would say that even though mindfulness felt a bit interesting, it felt like something for somebody else. And actually, really, it wasn't. Because really there are these misconceptions. So for example, I would say that mindfulness isn't about doing more or less, right? So we think it's doing less, going slow. It's actually not about that at all. It is about paying attention. It is about noticing. So it's about seeing more clearly. So how do we see more clearly? Well, there's certain practices we do to practice being able to see more clearly. It is not about clearing your mind. So some people, if you do a practice, then we talk about mind wandering, right? So I do a practice, maybe I'm feeling my breath, and then the mind wanders to thoughts, planning, etc. And then we go, oh, mistake. Or that's not good. My goal is to have no mind wandering, or less mind wandering. Or one day I catch it and bring it back fast, like me and staying in this box, right? Stay here. Don't go anywhere else. Don't wander. Right? Because sometimes I'm drifting a little bit there, come back. But can we be a bit kind to that? The mind's job is to plan for us, to worry ahead for us a little bit. And so the idea is not about clearing the mind. It's about noticing what the mind has done in a kind way and working with it. So if right now, if I'm the mind and wandering out, I say, oh, that's not helpful because the camera is here. Let me come back. But I don't have to go crazy about it. I don't have to beat myself up. I say, why? Just now you just did it. Now you're going to do it again. Can you just stand still or not? No need. No need for that, right? So there's an idea about not clearing the mind. It's also not about feeling calm all the time. Sometimes I'll hear someone say, oh, I got so angry. I cannot do mindfulness. We're so harsh on ourselves. So we have to be like, I don't know, at peak zen every moment of the day. Otherwise, we have failed. No, mindfulness is really just about being aware, as I mentioned, seeing clearly, and making choices. And at the moment when I feel, oh, actually, I'm super not calm right now, I can take a moment to feel my body. Maybe I can even feel this room. There's a whole bunch of people who appear to be very kind, with goodwill, who are sitting here. And that feeds me a little bit, and I'm back here, and I'm calm again, right? So there's an idea that we can make mistakes, if you want to call it that, and still be okay. So it's not about feeling calm all the time. It's not about lowering your standards, because once you understand what you have done, you can choose your standard. I said, no, actually, I did it this way automatically because I was rushing, and maybe I want to do it differently next time. And for me, that's the clearest when it comes to working with or being with my loved ones, right? We do stuff and go, oh, actually, that's not what I want to stand for. Now that I know, I'll try to fix it or improve it for next time. And it's not about positive thinking. This is really important because some people I think, we just look on the bright side. Actually, no, this is a subtle point, but I think it's an important point to share. What I found about mindfulness is that it's not about positive thinking, but it's about seeing the small positives that are really there, but we tend to miss. So, for example, again, coming back to this group, at this moment, I could really take a moment to sense I'm here because Celeste has invited me here. And I'm grateful for that. Thank you for that opportunity. And you can just notice and nourish yourself a little bit as you notice that. But it's not making up to say, oh, something you have to force yourself to feel. What you feel is what you feel. That's okay. So it's about noticing the positives that we tend to miss. Right? Yeah, so seeing more clearly helps. And actually, what happens when you see more clearly, this is what it simply involves, mindfulness. It's about pausing to notice. Pausing, noticing, being present with what's here. So in that sense, when we say mindfulness in real life, it really is about mindfulness about real life. Not about mindfulness when I'm in the mountaintop and it's super easy to just feel great about everything. No, it's like mindful right now. Right now, what can we feel? How do you feel? Can you feel your body as you're sitting down? Maybe can you notice the breathing? And in terms of connectedness, can you get a sense that there is more than one person here? Thankfully, thank you for coming. And that they have a presence about them. Maybe even feel the people online, everybody, right? And that we are connected somehow, pausing to notice, being present. And what that means is basically that we are not on autopilot. Because when we are running the first slide, right, about, need to do stuff, there's so much distractions. We're running so fast, we sometimes have automated that action that we miss something. So we really want to shift from autopilot to awareness so we can choose, we can see, and then we can choose. And therefore, there's also an element of the heart qualities. The idea that when we meet something, we don't have to kill it or fix it. So there's a saying I shared earlier, right, which is to someone with a hammer, everything looks like a nail. So if I'm in my problem-solving mode, get promoted mode only, do, then I might see something, I just say, oh, I don't like that, just stop it. But if we bring a slightly different quality of, I wonder what that is, a bit of curiosity or a bit of delaying judgment to say, let me see a bit more before I comment. You can meet the experience differently, and that gives us the chance to respond differently. Because the attitude we bring to something can completely change how you experience it. Really, really want to. I'll come back to that in a second. And so this is the point. And Arthur, thanks for asking the question earlier, because here's the answer. For me, my view, it's not about slowing down. It is about fully showing up. Are we fully present in that moment? Of course, I'm not saying that, mindfulness doesn't involve slowing down. Sometimes there is, of course, a sitting, pausing, but that is more to wake up from the autopilot, to wake up from the auto rush. Not because slowing down is mindfulness and slowing down for itself is the reason. Is that making sense? Yeah, thank you. Some notes. I'll pause for a second. I feel I'm getting a bit excited. Just checking. Anybody have any questions, concerns in the wrong room? Anybody wants to leave? We're all good. Okay, cool. I'll continue. Thank you. So it has a profound impact on my life. I'll go through in a little bit more detail in a second, but I just wanted to say at a big picture. For me, it has been about taking care of the mind, number one. And then by taking care of the mind, I can see more clearly, I can choose more wisely, and it just feels a little bit easier. Like I'm not fighting life, I'm not fighting experience. Because I kind of give it a moment before I decide. It just feels so much easier. So that's what it's done for me. I'm still direction blind. But, when I get lost, it's okay. I'm lost. Like maybe you start a bit earlier, or be a bit kinder when you're lost. It's okay. And that has really helped me to be able to connect the doing well and being well. So I'll come back to that in a second. So, sorry. So this is the last step here, the last part of my journey up to today. So after that, I was really curious to learn more about mindfulness in a deeper way. So I trained as a teacher with Oxford Mindfulness, and then I did a master's at Oxford University on MBCT. And it was so helpful for me, and it seemed like there was a need or some benefits in the community that I started Mindful Circle in order to bring mindfulness in an accessible and sustainable way. So this is why we are a social enterprise. So some of the offerings, all of the offerings we offer to the public, there is a tiered pricing, including free. And no questions asked. You don't have to qualify for it, just choose free. And we have corporate offerings that kind of subsidize that. But it feels like it can be helpful. So I'll talk a little bit about that. Sorry, actually I want to show something. So it was about moving beyond the either or. Remember I was saying earlier about performance or well-being. It's a bit like money or your life kind of thing, right? So let's see if we can have a bit of both, right? So, but before I go there, I want to also flag that mindfulness is not the answer to everything. Mindfulness is not a silver bullet. There are lots of things that, we will still need to work on. There could be issues about the overall system. If you're working in a place where there's a lot of things that are dysfunctional, us being mindful alone is not going to change the bigger picture. So we do need to address systemic issues. We do need to take care of ourselves beyond mindfulness. But for me, mindfulness has already helped because it allows me to see more clearly what I can change, what I cannot, and then I can choose my action. So again, I try very hard every time I talk about mindfulness to end with a choice or action. Because mindfulness is not just allowing full stop. I'll be more accurate. It's allowing the experience at that moment. So I feel irritated that this person cut in front of me. That is the experience I have right at that moment. I allow the experience because that is the experience. And then I can say, okay, what do I want to do? Do I want to shout? Do I want to, speed up, slow down? So awareness is the beginning of action. And so really wanted to connect those two things together. Okay. So what have I realized as I've done all these studies and started working with the community? The first thing is that the mind is really powerful. So the title, right, is probably the most powerful, overused, and underappreciated asset we have. I really do feel that way. There are lots of things that we take for granted, just human being, we get used to what we have. But this is very powerful. And it's overused. Use it every single second. And we don't treat it like a valuable asset, right? We expect it to function at full speed all the time without breaks. If right now, Celeste gives me a Sudoku puzzle, I want to solve it straight away. It's not like, mind, how are you? You okay? Can you try or not? You just do it, right? I'll just do it. And we overload it. We think about everything all the time, like later I want to do this, later I want to do that. And distractions, decisions, and we really, really rarely take time to say, what is it? What is it doing? How is it? How can I help it? And even if we don't do any of that, thank you, mind. Can we appreciate it? At least one thing, So notice and appreciate leads to nourishing ourselves, right? So this is something I realized about the mind. And then this was a sort of probably the most important revelation for me, that actually most of life's most important things are not either or, right? So when we're very busy, we tend to go into autopilot, right? So you run as fast as you can. And we kind of think somewhere in our mind there's this rule that is work or rest. So I remember very clearly I would take my kids to swimming club on the weekends. I'm sure many others do that as well. And as they're swimming, I bring my laptop and do some work. Then a parent will walk by and say, oh, Sunday also working. I said, yeah, Sunday also working, right? And then we all commiserate about the fact that I have to work on a Sunday. But actually, over the years, I've realized I enjoy working. I want to work. This is something I want to do. So, but somehow or other, when you tell yourself that, oh, this is a suffering, then it feels like a suffering, right? But it's not really, I'm not making it up. This is not positive thinking, right? You just ask yourself which part you enjoy, which part you don't. Nothing is all black or all white. Usually there's like, and so for me, it's like, oh, I feel better. So now when they stop, they get very irritated when I say this, right? Now when they stop me, I say, no, this is my hobby. And then they go like, oh. not cool, kind of thing. And that's also because there's this zero-sum game. We feel that when we suffer, everyone else, should be on the same boat kind of feeling. So work and rest are not opposites, or they don't have to be. They can be, of course, but they don't have to be. And nourishment and depletion, right? The idea that something is either going to boost my energy or drain my energy, and it's kind of fixed. Actually, we all know it's not fixed. Let's think about maybe cooking a meal for yourself or someone else. In a good mood, when you have time, it can be quite nourishing, it can be quite enjoyable, quite meaningful. When you're in a rush, or you feel like, why am I doing it again? Someone else should be doing it, ABC should be doing it. Then it feels particularly depleting. And that brings us back to what I was saying earlier about the quality of our attention, the heart. So if we approach something with a little bit more of an open heart rather than a closed heart, we say, okay, actually, I'm quite happy to cook because I can help X, Y, Z. Real example. So I told Celeste I'll tell real things only, like from my real life. So I used to travel every week overseas for work. And when I come back on a Thursday night, sometimes I'm driving the family car, and then there's no petrol. And I get really irritated. It's like, come on, guys. I'm working so hard. I got board meeting last night. I've got to do this, do that, stand in front and do slides and all that. And all you're doing is just this what, right? And we have kids. What happens if there's an emergency and then there's no petrol, etc., etc. So very quickly, that is like, when I'm pumping petrol, it is a very depleting activity. And I feel like, then I go back and don't tell anyone. I feel that depletion for another half day. Sometimes next morning I wake up, I go, what am I feeling? Oh, yeah. Remember, you're not happy. So continue the not happy, just in case I forgot, right? And that's really sad because we are adding this extra depletion on ourselves. And true story, not positive thinking, just true story, just when you slow down and you notice your heart, right? It's actually, I do very little for my kids. My wife does everything. Homework, school, everything. I'm only back home Thursday night. And then, Friday is a rush, and then the weekend already. And weekend's all the fun stuff. So actually, I don't contribute much to the home. Pumping petrol is a tiny, tiny task. It's like probably only 500 meters or less than a kilometer from the house. Maybe I can view that as my contribution. And you can't lie to yourself. Everything I'm telling you, is about when you're aware, you can choose. So you need to choose your interpretation. You need to be aware of your state and your choices that fit you. But I believe you will see more when you are mindful than when you're rushing. And so, there's 10 things I can choose from. I choose this because this is healthy and helpful. So then, actually, when I come back from the airport, I get a bit excited and say, okay, where's the car? Let's go. All right, let's go. Let me do it. And I get a bit disappointed if the petrol is already full, right? So just showing you an example. I'm not saying you must follow it or this is true for everyone. No. The point is that whether something is a plus or minus is much more subjective than you think. And when we are mindful, we have more choice. We can make a minus less minus, or we can help a plus be more plus. And I do this every day of my life. Just take a moment and say, what is helpful? What is true? Not making it up. And let's lean into that. Yeah. Giving versus receiving. Again, same thing, right? Instinctively feel that if I give you more, I have less. But actually, that's only true of the lowest level of Maslow's hierarchy. Shelter, food, belongings, those are tangible. But actually, when you go higher up, trust, connection, kindness, which I argue are more important. Once you have the baseline of the bottom, if I smile at you, I don't have one smile less. If I trust you, doesn't mean I trust somebody else less. In fact, very likely that it will reciprocate. I smile at you, you might smile back. Or, and I give some warmth, maybe you feel it and you can give it to somebody else. So there's some beauty there. And these are not either or, not black or white, A or B. This has really transformed my life. I really want to say that with all honesty. And so this is what I feel it has done. So the mindset has shifted. So my first round, I changed jobs, but I didn't change myself, right? So the result is roughly the same, right? But now, it's like, if I approach this differently, suddenly there's so many more possibilities. And as I mentioned, intangibles, energy. Energy is important because we're all a little bit short of energy, right? time is a resource, but energy is probably even more limiting than time. So if energy is not a zero sum, and when we give, we can get more, suddenly there are many more options. So being here today and sharing with you guys, if I approach it as, oh, I must do this by what time, and do that, it would be very depleting. But actually, if I say, this is an opportunity and I really want it, I'm glad that you guys are here, I'm glad that you guys are there as well, it feels different to me. And I really hope that you can feel the difference so we can both benefit a bit. So giving, I hope you get something, but I also get something. And doing well and being well do not have to be opposites. By doing well and seeing the meaning of what I'm doing well, I get more nourishment. So I'm more well. My well-being is improved. And by being well, I have more opportunity to do well. So this is just about choosing carefully and really being aware. And that's why mindfulness is about, again, awareness. Okay, I feel I'm a bit nagging you guys. Any questions or challenges? I'm more than happy to take at the moment. If not, it's okay. But yes.
I think there's just a comment of the chat that
Yes.
success and well-being ought not to be mutually exclusive.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing that. Yeah. So success and well-being, they don't have to be mutually exclusive. Absolutely. I would argue, though, that for most of us, including me, when we are in a big rush, when we're in that doing type A zone, it feels like there's no space for both. So if I want to get in front of the queue, I will have very little sense of empathy for the next person. I really, really, really want it. But if we are a little bit more spacious and say, okay, look, how do I feel? What do I really need? What can be helpful? Then more choices come up. Yeah, so I absolutely agree. Thank you for sharing that. Doing well and being well, or success and well-being, do not have to be mutually exclusive. And I will go further, they can help each other. So right now, today, I am doing more work. Financially, we are making more revenue. I am meeting more people. So all are up, and I feel better. So it is possible, but again, with awareness and kind choice to yourself and to others. Anyone else with any questions or confusion, compliments? No, it's okay if there's none. I'll move on. So, yeah, so to me, mindfulness is about expanding the perspective, because when you expand your perspective, it reveals more options. And it reveals options that are more nourishing. And that is far more than we realize when we are rushing through life. Really feel that's important. Again, look at me, I don't look like a mindfulness teacher at all, right? And it's okay, it doesn't matter. We can all have different levels of practice, but can it help us? I believe the answer is yes, it's possible. So I won't harp too much on the same point, but this is just to wrap up on the fundamental shift that mindfulness helped me with. It helped widen the perspective so I'm less reactive, less automatic, and much more intentional. It helps me shift from autopilot to awareness so I can see patterns. Oh, patterns are fantastic, I can tell you. So for example, I know that when I'm feeling particularly righteous, there's something wrong. That means I'm overreacting. Like, maybe I had a disagreement with someone and I feel like, then, okay, I'm reacting right now. And doesn't mean it's bad, but just notice what is that about, and what do I want to keep and what do I want to throw away. We can regulate ourselves, our stress more effectively, because we're beginning to choose. And of course, we make better decisions. Or I don't say better, because better implies right and wrong, but decisions that are more in line with what we wish for when we are fully paying attention. Yeah, that's what I mean. Yeah. Okay. And yeah, so you can actually, if you practice a little bit every day, a little bit, it's not like, 1 hour or whatever, even just little moments here and there in the day, it begins to rewire the habits of the mind. Because we are talking about evolutionary processes, right? So our negativity bias, seeing problem first, is an adaptive survival mechanism to see problems quickly. You don't want to, let's see here, if there's a hole in the ceiling with stuff coming out, you'll notice that first when you walk in, because that could be dangerous, right? But we miss the positives. And so when you notice all these little things, or the zero-sum game, can you imagine a time where I certainly can. I rush into a closing door of a lift or MRT, and then when I got in, I feel like, small victory. But then behind me, one more person came in. And then, the victory is less now because somebody else also won, right? So this is very strange zero-sum mindset stuff that if you really pay attention, you'll see. And that's not to criticize ourselves. You say, that's interesting. Isn't that weird? And I can let that go, really, because it doesn't serve me, right? So this is what I mean by rewiring. And you see more and more and more, and then it brings a lot of adaptability. You can say, actually, there's not only right or wrong, do or don't do. If I have a huge argument with my boss or disagreement, it's not just I give up or I quit. There's many more options than give up or quit. Yeah, so that's something which has been really helpful. So I wanted to share, so that's just my sharing. I felt it's a bit weird for me just to talk about myself for that long. So I wanted to also share short video clips of our past participants who have attended Mindful Circle's MBCT program. And this is just unscripted. This is what they said about what they took away.
I always thought that mindfulness had to be done like sitting down. I just need to keep doing a bunch of body scans for 10 minutes, 20 minutes, 1 hour. But through his course, I was able to see that mindfulness could be done in a way that is unique to myself and something that I could personalize to my own life. Yeah. So which I thought was quite different.
Those kind of things were really appealed to me, to have those options available. And that was something I'd not come across before. And I was like, okay, this is great. It's not just one way of doing things. It's, a number of different ways. And then you have a lot of the short mindful activities, which are probably the ones I pick up most often. And you can do those everywhere, anywhere between, we all have a couple of moments here or there in our life, a couple of minutes. And we can build that into our days without really having to change much in terms of, what your schedule is like.
So with the increase in appreciation for even the simple things, and sometimes even if it's not routine, sometimes just realizing, oh my gosh, that tree over there is so beautiful. Never saw it before, right? Or never saw it the same way, right? Or just feeling even the aircon hit, like just cool the temperature of the room down a little bit. Just increasing that sense of appreciation. I feel it changes my baseline mood, maybe. That might be one way to describe it. It can change my baseline mood. So I would say overall, I am calmer, happier, more able to deal with unexpected events, and more able to get over unexpected or unpleasant events quicker with more ease.
Practice your mindfulness around non-stressful things. Appreciate the cup of coffee that you have. Appreciate that this morning your neck actually feels good. It's not aching that much. Appreciate that morning shower that we take, and just be mindful and just feel the body sensations of everything. As you take a sip, as the water falls in your head, be mindful around those things. As we get better at being mindful about life in general, we get better at being mindful when things get stressful.
Yeah, sharing unscripted past participants from last year. Anybody with any comments or questions on what they've heard here? I really want to give time for you guys because I hope that we can take away something with you. Anybody with questions, challenges, everything is welcome. It's okay. Anything that sounds a bit weird or goes, oh, I never thought of mindfulness like that. And online as well, of course, you're most welcome to ask questions, make comments.
Ask a question on something like I have.
Yeah, sorry, maybe you just want to repeat this so the online people can hear. Thank you so much.
Okay, so yeah, this is something I think I have come up in past few months where I started learning about hacking my mind. Instead, like mindfulness, I know it's time to time, like when I'm upset or angry or I need time to process my feelings, I tend to do that. But other times I do this, fooling him most of the time and not let him, get into those traps or something. So this, I don't know what's the trick, or is it a good method or not? Maybe you can comment on that.
Could you share one example hack of what you mean? Just one example.
How do I say that? Okay, let's say I want to eat some snacks or something or some good food and all. And I'll go and stand in front of the stand in fair price and then just tell it, this is the palm oil, it's gonna go into your artery. In your vein, this is gonna happen. This is so dangerous. Do you want to make that decision? And then of course my mind will be like, it won't be excited as much and I walk away. So those kind of trying to tell him, I don't know, I feel like instead of being the slave of the mind where he controls you and you just follow whatever it says to you, I feel like I should be in power. I should be telling him that, this is what it's correct, this is how you should be and all. Of course, when it comes to the feelings, then I think another brain takes over. So, yeah.
Thank you. Great question. Thank you, Philip. Yeah, thank you. So that's a really interesting question about, you said hacking the mind, something you've been playing around with. And the example given was, let's say there's something I want to eat and it's not good for me. I just remind myself that, this is full of, bad stuff, it's going to go into my arteries, etc. And it sort of makes me less keen to do it. And the other question you're saying is that, or the point you're making is that instead of the mind controlling me, I control the mind. So the question was, how does that connect with mindfulness? So I think there are some connections. What I would say with mindfulness is we're not really trying to change anything or control anything, which is kind of interesting. But that doesn't mean we don't do anything. So I'll just sort of slow down and break it down because it sounds, and a lot of mindfulness can sometimes feel very contradictory. So, but as you see more and more, you go, you mean not that they're opposites, but they are, one is here and one is there. So if I'm going to slow down, so let's say I want to eat this cake. Let me personalize myself. I want to eat this prata, right? This is my thing is prata. Okay, I really want to eat it. And so if mindfulness is more like, okay, let me just sense for a moment this feeling of wanting to eat prata. Is it a body feeling? Maybe my stomach is growling. Is it a thought? It's a prata, fish curry, maybe with onion. Is it a thought? Or is it an emotion of like, I have this thing that if I don't eat it, it will be empty. There's this kind of emotion attached to that. And so that's just noticing, not changing, noticing, but not going straight away order, something. So it takes a moment, okay, I feel like that. And then when I see it, I have a choice. In my size, you can tell from my size, the choice is, that's good, let it go, let's go, right? So at that moment, I feel like I would like a prata, and I do it consciously.
Even if I'm liking a feeling for something, I just tell myself I feel it.
Yeah.
If it's like a kind of a signal I'm giving my brain to set up a kind of a perspective about that situation.
Yes.
Like in one of the slides you mentioned that if you keep telling that I'm stressed or this is very difficult, then your mind will start perceiving it that way. So I tell nothing. Everything's doable. It's so easy.
Yes.
But even though I know in my heart it's not, but I try to force like my mind in a certain different position to take up that task.
No, I appreciate that. And just for the online people, right? So the point she's made is about associating on purpose something you don't want to do with something negative. But you also said something about like forcing the mind down that way. So that is not a typical mindfulness approach. It might work. If it works, keep trying, experimenting, figure out what works best for you. I instinctively guess, without any training in this area, that sometimes if we push too hard that way of repressing or pushing away, sometimes it can bounce back. I'm not sure. That's my concern. Mindfulness is very different. If I can continue my prata episode, right? So, but what I was going to say is, so in that moment, I feel, okay, I get why, I get my thoughts, I get my emotions, I get my body, green, go ahead. But many times it'll be like, actually, I'm not hungry. I'm not kidding, real story, right? In fact, it just happened yesterday, but not prata, something else. I'm not hungry. Actually, I'm bored. There's a different feeling. It's like 9:30 at night, kind of like not too early to go to sleep, nothing to do, I wanted to eat something. It's like, wait, how do I feel? Maybe I'm not hungry at all, I'm totally bored. It's a different thing. So you realize after a while that when you pay attention, the number of times that I would have indulged in that thing goes from, let's say, 10 times to maybe 5 times without me forcing. And it's always grounded in reality. And there's so many times, another I can tell you, and I need to stop to go on, I'm going to get excited, is coffee. I drink a lot of coffee. And then one day I say, okay, let me drink coffee intentionally. What does that mean? If I feel like drinking a coffee, then I will drink the coffee and I will enjoy the coffee. But then I noticed that I was ordering a lot of coffee on autopilot. So I have a meal with my colleagues. If that type of restaurant, I will automatically order a flat white, just without thinking. And now I say, okay, do I want a flat white? Half the time the answer is no, or a tea is good enough, or something else is good enough. So half is cut down because those are automatic. And I have a lovely, generous wife. When she orders a Grab delivery of stuff for the kids, sometimes she'll just add a coffee for me. And so sometimes I go home to my home office and there's a latte there. In fact, 3 times a week. And after a while, I realize actually I just drink it because it's there. And if I don't feel like drinking it, maybe I tell my wife, doesn't mean I don't love you. I really appreciate it, but don't order for me next time because I'm trying to cut down. And so just by noticing, I cut by 70%. So I would say that mindfulness is about that awareness and choice, not really changing. Because I guess, and this is the part that I don't know well, my guess is that trying to change too hard, trying to control too hard may have some unintended consequences later. Yeah. I'm just checking for time. I would like to carry on if that's okay, because I also want to really share very practical things I hope you can take away with you and you can try today. That's my hope, okay? So hopefully this still works. Yes. So I'm going to share a few habits that I've really been using, and actually I've learned from my participants as well. So they share, like those people, they share, oh, this is interesting. 3 people said the same thing. Maybe we can try that. So the first one is starting with intentions. What I mean by that is, whether when you wake up in the morning or just before you do something, very often we just rush. I wake up in the morning, look at my phone, and then in my mind, oh, I have a 10 o'clock, I have a 2 o'clock, I have this, and you just go. So sometimes we have no obvious intentions when we move. And that means we are on autopilot. Or we are focused on goals. Goals are the outcome. And that's important. But when you focus too much on the goals, you may forget about other options. So let's say, this is a real participant sharing. Someone said, oh, I'm in charge of customer complaints and dealing with potential refunds. So if I go into a meeting, and this person said, if I go into the meeting, and in my head, it's like, I can give maximum $100 refund. If you walk in like that, this goal, minimum refund, you will only be talking about money and refund. But actually, if they change to be, my intention is to listen and to represent my company well. It's a bit different. Then you go and say, oh, what happened? Because it's not about, is it $50, $70? And then sometimes, it's a bit like my coffee example, it doesn't mean every time the person says, oh, thank you, high five, and I leave. No. But sometimes you go, oh, I didn't realize that this person was actually irritated with something else. Maybe they were complaining the timing changed last minute and they don't need the money back or they don't need a refund. So intentions can really shift what you experience and what you pay attention to and what you do. So here are just some examples. I won't go through every single one of them. But, do I rush to my email or do I take a breath just before I start? Right? We all have to-do lists. Do we have a to-be list? I'm going to do this, I'm going to do this, but maybe today I'm going to be a bit calm. Or I'll try to bring a bit of friendliness. So that is not about being soft or being like super nice and a pushover. It's making a choice of what energy you want to bring to your day. It's your life. It's not my life, right? You can choose. So maybe be intentional about what you bring with you to your day. And this can really shape everything that follows. I really want to emphasize this. The attitude we bring in influences the experience and the outcome much more than we realize. And just because we didn't choose an attitude doesn't mean we don't have an attitude when we go in. Very often we have an attitude, it's just the auto attitude, which tends to be harsh. Close mind, close heart. those senses, get it done. That tends to be our mode because you have so many things to do in life. There's one habit I encourage you. So this takes like less than 5 seconds, right? Just take a moment to say, how do I feel right now? What would be helpful right now? Okay, maybe for lunch time, I will try to bring an attitude of just noticing my food. That's it. Just notice. Small things and see what happens. Next habit, in between moments, embracing in between moments. The mind, because we are so focused on getting things done, we jump from to-do to to-do to to-do. So as I said, if I have a 2 o'clock meeting, a 4 o'clock meeting, between the 2 o'clock and 4 o'clock meeting, as I said, there's no time. It's like wasted time. And the brain will just switch off, or the mind will switch off. I go and distract, do something. And actually, we can use that time for nourishing ourselves, reset, refresh. So, for example, we can take a breath before opening an email. Okay, this is very, very sudden, but it's possible, right? Just before. So, I have a funny saying I'll say later again. If you have time to check your phone, you have time to check in on your body. So, on my phone, I say, oh, how do I feel right now? Hungry? Need to use toilet? What? Just notice. And that's okay. Move on. Doesn't have to be like a 20-minute complicated thing, right? Just notice. And when you're in a queue, can I feel my full body, bring my body with me as I go on the queue? Other things as well. So lots and lots of different things. When I'm drinking coffee, we don't have to drink coffee and look at the screen all the time. We can take a moment. And this is not for anybody's benefit. This is for our own benefit because we are basically increasing our level of presence and awareness so we can see more. We could also be basically nourishing ourselves. So maybe if I notice, one participant was saying like, oh, she noticed the trees are so lovely. She never noticed it that way before. Those little things add up to your emotional capacity. You're like topping up your goodwill for yourself and life. That makes the next difficult situation a little bit easier to handle. So pauses are not wasted time. Promise. They are the time that you reclaim from the phone, right, or from something else. Please, really can be helpful. The next habit is engaging mindfully with routine activities. We all do things that we do so often that we don't need to think. Maybe driving, brushing teeth, showering, etc. Or talking to loved ones. So I'll just show a few here. Maybe this one, number 4, right? Really listening to someone just so that you can hear. Can I just, especially with loved ones, right? Can we listen to a elderly relative purely to feel how they feel? So maybe I can challenge you. Next time you meet someone that you feel you would like to be more compassionate to, but it's a bit difficult sometimes, and I'm in that camp, I promise. Just say, okay, now next time, the next 5 minutes, I don't focus on the words, I focus on the feeling. It's quite interesting to receive the feeling. Is this feeling, and these sort of things allow you to really, again, open the mind, open the heart, open the senses, and we see more choice. So the ordinary moments can be really quite extraordinary. I have so many examples. There's a participant who saw a little leaf of a blueberry dried up in the punnet. And that moment was like, oh, this blueberry is a real thing. It didn't come from a factory. And that realization just opened up a lot of well-being for the day. So it doesn't have to be this soft stuff. It can also be I can give you another example where I had this routine conversation with my administrators in my office. And one day I said, okay, rather than just talk the same thing, right, budgeting and all that, let me notice this human being in front of me who is working to try to save me money. Let me just spend half an hour with that mindset. And I tell you, it was so enjoyable. It's like, oh, wow, there's a lot of spreadsheets, there's a lot of numbers, a lot of highlighters. But rather than thinking about, oh, you did this for me to do, it's like, oh, you did this to help. And so by approaching and just noticing everything, it made it so much easier to work together. So the connections grow when we open up. 4th one is disengaging from unhelpful reactivity, right? So very often something happens and we get triggered. And that can actually lead to us doing things that we regret because of impulse. So here are 5 examples. And so again, it's very similar thing of like pausing, ask myself, what's the wisest response? Or maybe naming the emotion. Oh, wow, I really feel quite irritated right now. And that's okay. That's just a feeling, comes and goes. So noticing, naming can give some distance, and then that leads to choice. I'm just conscious of time, so I'll just finish up soon. That's number 4. This is the last one. Sustaining. Everything I've described, do a little bit every day if you can. That would be great. But please carry on, because these are little habits, and they get easier and easier as you try them more and more. And like that last guy said, do them when it's easy, so that when you need it, it's relatively easier to access. Yeah. So here are just some of the things you recommend. Set aside time for practice, maybe reflection at the end of the day, end of the week, just to be intentional in our life. And of course, what we nurture grows. So this is my last slide of this picture here of the grass, and the saying that normally people say the grass is greener on the other side. The grass isn't greener on the other side. The grass is greener where you water it. So really, please, mindfulness is possible for a normal human being in a normal day, with a normal job, with normal family, normal problems. It's just about not slowing down, not going to the mountain, not being perfect at yoga, but really just being there. It's a sense of okayness, friendliness. So I really hope you give it a go. And this has been of some value to you. So thank you very much for your time today. Much appreciated. All the best.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks very much, Stanley. That was really helpful. Yeah. So we don't have to book the next vacation somewhere else. We just can do it right now. So inviting the audience for any questions. We probably have time for a couple.
Celeste Shazid.
Oh, yes. Okay, Shazid.
Thanks, Stanley. It was a lovely journey you shared.
Sorry, Shazid.
It's okay, go ahead.
Yeah, we were just going to project it so that the audience here can hear.
Okay.
Project. That's the voice.
Probably Mr. Mike, I guess.
Okay. Go on.
I think they will be able to hear.
Thanks. Yeah, Stan, 2 comments maybe. I think the 2 examples that you gave were outstanding, and one of the audience also shared. So I take it as you have the triggers, and then most of the time we are on the knee-jerk response. I mean, we just immediately and we respond. And we forget that there is a gap between the trigger and the response. So if we habituate ourselves for staying slightly longer in that gap, options open up. And then you can choose and pick the options, and they might be different from what you did instantly responding to something, and that may appear to be an email or whatever it is in your life. And the second comment was regarding the destination you mentioned. And I'm a coach as well, in addition to being an academic. So when you're too stuck up on goals or destinations, which are very important, you actually forget the pleasure of the journey. And sometimes what we say is that, okay, it's important to get there to the gas station to fill up your tank, but the journey of going from the airport to your home, picking up the car, is also something that you can make enjoyable.
So yeah, thank you. I mean, there's some beautiful sharing there. I might just paraphrase for you if you don't mind, so that people here can hear as well, right? So the idea that between something happening and what we do, so sometimes they call it stimulus and response, there can be a gap. When we are running as fast as we can on autopilot, that gap is nearly zero. It's very fast. But if we can practice giving it a bit more space, then we start seeing more and having a choice. So thank you for sharing that. I totally agree with that. And I think there's a saying from Viktor Frankl: between stimulus and response, there is a space. And in that space lies freedom. Because you're no longer acting because the mind did it for you. I mean, very often the mind will just do it before you ask it to do it. Absolutely. So that's a really powerful thing. And the other thing you shared, which I'm absolutely sort of aligned with as well, is it's not only about the destination. The journey itself can be a source of nourishment, can be a source of meaning. So really, we are shortchanging ourselves if we only look at, time 0, time 2, time 8, and time 10 in our life. Why? But there's more. There was more than that. There's more experience. And opening up to that can be a source of information, nourishment, inspiration. Thank you for sharing that.
Any other questions?
There's a
Yeah.
comment.
There's a comment. Okay, the comment is from Mabel.
I think that's the Victor Frankl.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks everyone for attending this. Thank you again, Stanley. Thanks to everyone also online for all your comments and all your sharing as well. Really hope that we all can try to incorporate some of these helpful habits into our lives and, well, have a very good Friday and weekend and try out the mindfulness. Okay.
Thank you, everyone. All the
Thanks.
best. Thanks.
Bye.
Thanks for the comment.